Blog Talk Radio.
Hey, you are now tuned in to 110 Sports Talk. I go by the name Lynn Knack. Hey,
it's the best.
running through the competition, no competition. You don't believe it, turn us up. Sit back and listen. We bringing you the stats, all the breaking news and facts. Want the latest on the biggest trade war, this is where it's at. We don't talk it, boy, we live it. Got that all around coverage. From track and field, you name a field, we got it all covered. No diss to Derrick Rose, but we don't talk that bull. Just wait till he get healthy, better watch out for them bulls. Slide over the hockey, shout out to the Kings. Salute to LeBron James, y'all both got y'all rings. Looking for the real, you tune into the best. The sportologist and Mr. CJ Sports is up next.
I want to welcome everybody to the 110 Nation Sports Show. I'm your host, Mr. CJ Sports. You can follow me at CJ Sports 1. You can follow the 110 Nation at 110 Nation. Glad to be here on this Wednesday, getting ahead of myself, Tuesday night, the number one night on the 110 Nation Sports Radio Network. And on top of that, oh my God, what a Tuesday. The NCAA BCS playoff committee gives their first initial rankings. Of course, we're going to jump into a little bit of that. NASCAR started started changing the rules, but they've done that since God knows how long now. They changed things up, and what was allowed by Joey Logano at Kansas, what was allowed at Talladega by Kevin Harvick, was somewhat not allowed by Danica Patrick, and Kansas was thrown underneath the bus for doing pretty much the same thing as everybody else has done at this point. Of course, we're going to talk a little bit about that. We've got Patrick Taylor from Line Blower joining us at 9:30 tonight to talk NFL. We had to switch things up because we got at 10 o'clock. We got a very young, talented football player joining us with the name of Deanna Simmons, and I really hate having names. I know that I'm unjacked up, but I'm gonna go with Guidry. Guiry, and I know that I jacked it up, and I apologize. And to go trend with the change up of having Patrick Taylor at 9:30 versus 10 o'clock, we're also going to change and throw another twist in tonight's show. Shorty's going to step in, and she's going to host that 30-minute segment and talk to the young football player from the WFL, the Women's Football League of the San Diego Surge team, and I'm going to sit in the back seat, and I'm going to kick my feet up and watch my young protege take over the reins and see how she handles the pressure of having her first one-on-one interview for the show. So looking forward to that. And then, of course, to wrap things up, we've got Enzo joining us, our NHL expert, to get you guys caught up on all the latest in the National Hockey League. So looking forward to that opportunity of doing that. So got a lot of things planned tonight. So good God. Make sure you guys check me out at CJ Sports 1. Check out the 110 Nation at 110 Nation. I'll tell you what. I try to sit here and watch the Chicago Bulls, even though I'm not a Bulls fan by any stretch of the imagination. Honestly, I thought I was going to watch the Chicago Bulls embarrass the hometown Charlotte Hornets here, and it's turned into be the other way around, and the Hornets were up by 30 points, and I just had to change the game. There was nothing fun about watching this game. But make sure you also check my fan page out, Mr. CJ Sports. Also, check out the 110 Nations fan page, 110 Nations Sports. We combined that and the radio fan page together and made one massive Facebook fan page. Been getting a lot of reaction, interaction, and it's been growing rapidly. And I want to thank everybody for that and everybody noticing the merger there Getting a lot of positive feedback and a lot of notice over there. I got to thank everybody for that. Also, make sure you check out our website, www.the110nation.com. Check out our blog site, www.the110nationsports.com as well. Make sure that you catch us however is most convenient to you. For those that are new to the show, don't forget. Well, if you're new to the show, you obviously can't forget. If you've been around for a while, don't forget. But if you're new to the show, I wanted to inform you, we are on iTunes, we are on Stitcher, we are on Spreaker, we are on SoundCloud, we are on Blog Talk Radio. Trying to bring multiple different platforms for you to be able to catch the show. And no matter how you catch the show, do us one. Do us a favor. Spreaker, with their platform, it helps us get to the next level. And what I mean by that, once we hit 100 follows, have 100 followers on the Spreaker platform, that makes it where we start being eligible to be on the iHeartRadio network. As a matter of fact, looking at the list, that's the last thing that we have to do, the last thing we have to accomplish. I might have overlooked something, but as of right now, the way it looks, that is the last thing we have to accomplish. Help us out. Between social media, between the shows, between the site, between everything we have to go on, we got 45 to 50,000 followers. All we need is 100 of you guys to go over there and follow us on Spreaker. It's simple. If you have an account and have already signed up with Spreaker, it takes you 15 seconds. If you do not have an account, logging in with Facebook, it takes you maybe 30 seconds. We ain't asking for a minute. We're not asking for money. We're just asking you to go over there and make it possible. We got shows and we got sponsors lined up. They're just waiting for us to make that leap onto the next platform. And hitting 100 followers would make it so we can start moving the process forward and getting ourselves not only on iHeartRadio, but also we're going to be working on getting ourselves on TuneIn Radio as well. Got to thank all the new listeners that have been checking out. I tell you what, I don't know what we did out there to gather some following out in Los Angeles, but being broadcasting live here in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and knowing that right now our number one listening city for the last week, 2 weeks has been Los Angeles, it is making us very proud here to let us know that the word is getting out and we're making our way all the way to the West Coast. Like I said, hit us up, follow us on Spreaker. Give us an opportunity to get on the next platform, help us be able to expand, help me be able to provide an opportunity. And I've said this before, I had this conversation the other night. Shorty and I were just sitting there on the couch, chilling. I believe we were on the couch. On the couch chilling, or laying in the bedroom watching some kind of sports, just chilling, talking. And you know, that's my thing right there. Now, I said before we came inside, last night or the night before. And that is what's driving me. That is what my passion is at this point when it comes to the 110 Nation. You know, when this all started, it was a way to supplement my income, which it's never once done that. It's cost me thousands and tens of thousands of dollars. Never once has it brought money into my pocket. And it's not that I complain. I'm getting an opportunity to build something that a lot of people dream about. But then it turned into using it as a platform to help charities and foundations, and we've done that a lot, and we continue to do that. We helped the DAV today, the Disabled Veterans, today, and contributed and had an opportunity to contribute to them today. So still doing that, but now it is taken on, and now it's a kind of a 50-50 split. Not only is it for us to have an opportunity to help many charities, now I want the other 50% of what we're doing to be able to provide an opportunity for those that have the same passion as I, that wants to have a job in the field, that they get to talk or write sports and make a career, have fun doing it, love doing what they're passionate, be able to go to these sporting events and everything else. That's what I want to provide. I want to be able to know that I'm providing an opportunity that families can live off an income and do what they want to do and not have to stress second job, not have to be miserable, go on, talk about how they hate their job, but be able to have an opportunity to do what they passionately love to do. And to make this happen, to have this opportunity, we need you. to go follow us on Spreaker so we can continue to expand, we can continue to grow, we can continue to bring on more shows and sponsors so we can make all this possible for all those working hard at the 110 Nation and those that we'll be bringing on as we continue to grow at the 110 Nation. Hook us up, check it out, do it for us. Don't forget, Monday through Wednesday, I guess 110 Nation Sports Show, 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Monday through Friday mornings, 8 a.m. to 110 Nation Morning Show. Make sure you check that out. Monday evenings, actually, 7 o'clock, Rubbing Is Racing. Thursday nights at 9 o'clock, you got Racing with Big Sweat. And, of course, noon on Fridays, you got you got one of the best shows out there, a show that likes to push that envelope. Some of the things we be talking about, it's a good thing the FCC is not all over our back, and sometimes I wonder when I'm going to get that notice. But the CJ and Shorty Show, make sure you guys check that out. We talk sports, but we like to push some of the envelopes a little bit farther, hit on a little topics and throwing a little twist into it, making a little maybe more than G-rated conversation. Actually, probably a little more than a little more PG-13 kind of show. But to make sure you guys check that out, noon every week. College Football Playoff Selection Committee has came out with the top 25. And believe it or not, the team that lost in week 3 and then went undefeated the rest of the season, won their conference championship, commandingly won the first playoff game against Alabama, commandingly beat Oregon Ducks in a national title game, has won every game since then, is on like a 22-game win streak, and yet they have not earned the respect to be considered the number one team at the playoff committee. Believe it or not, Ohio State is not on top. And I know a lot of people out there feel that way, that Ohio State should not be ranked as the number one team. I'm sorry, but I'm just a firm believer. One, you play the Big Ten or you play the SEC, your strength of schedule automatically gets a little more credibility than the other conferences, such as the ACC, such as the Big what? And someone out there lobbying for the Big 12. Are you serious? But even more, until somebody knocks you off your pedestal, until somebody beats you and causes you to finally lose a game after 20-something games, when you've beaten the Oregon Ducks, when you've beaten the Alabama Crimson Tide, until you get beat, I'm a firm believer you're the number one team. You are the defending champions. You have still not lost a game. How do you lose the number one spot? I don't understand how this whole process works. Can't go by strength of schedule, because then if that's the case, Clemson wouldn't be on top. I mean, it's an ACC team. Played for John ACC opponent. That obviously eliminates them beating Notre Dame, obviously helped them. But that the rest of your schedule is a walk in the park. I don't have a problem with LSU being in the top 4. I have a problem with them being above Ohio State, because at this point there's no reason why Ohio State is still not the number one team by any stretch of the imagination. So the committee has said its piece. It's got the playoff picture on how they decide it's going to look, and there we go. We got the mute button actually doesn't hit. But the committee has said its piece, said who the top 4 teams are. So obviously Ohio State, who was ranked 16th last year when this all started, worked their way all the way up to the top spot. So I guess coming from the 3rd spot won't be as difficult, but kind of surprised how an undefeated team, national champions, 20-plus game winner in a row streak going on, you get the bump. But we got Clemson number 1, LSU number 2, Ohio State number 3, Alabama number 4. I have no problem with all 4 of those teams being your top 4 teams. Don't get me wrong. I have no problem with it. All four of those teams are legitimately your top four teams. The number 5 team, I have a little bit of problem with it. I'm sorry, but Michigan State should be your 5th team. And I've been preaching that for a while. Notre Dame is your 5th-ranked team. Baylor, 6th, have a problem with that. Still should not be above Michigan State. Michigan State's strength of schedule, their undefeated record, the fact that they play in the Big Ten, that even the weak teams are stronger than anybody Baylor is having to worry about at this point. Sorry, but Baylor should not be your number 16. I like the fact that Baylor and TCU, rightfully so, are no longer in the top 5. They should have never been in the top 5. And there's a joke that the first polls that we went through for the first half of the season had those 2 teams in the top 5. We talked about this week after week. They've done nothing. They struggle against nobodies. Baylor beats the crap out of teams that are equivalent to your local middle school team. I can't even say high school. But you got Baylor 6, Michigan State number 7, TCU slides down to 8, Iowa 9th, Florida 10th, Stanford 11th, Utah 12th, Memphis, good shouts to Memphis, 13th, Oklahoma State 14th, Oklahoma 15th, Florida State 16th, Michigan 17th. Committee, even with a couple losses, Michigan, the committee's still in Michigan. Mississippi 18th, 19th Texas A&M, Mississippi State 20th, 21st Northwestern, Temple 22nd, 23rd UCLA, 24th Toledo, 25th Houston. And what's ironic, because we just talked about this last week, 3 teams that do not belong in the top 25, this committee got it right, are not in the top 25. Duke, Pitt, and UNC, 3 teams that had no business being in the top 25, found themselves getting the boot with the new selection committee in the top 25. Outside of Ohio State getting bumped off the top spot, that they rightfully are entitled to have at this point until somebody does something to remove them. I have a serious issue with it, but I could deal with the fact that Baylor and TCU are not in the top 5, and we eliminated UNC, Duke, and Pitt out of the top 25. Had no business. Karma was a mother. I think firmly that's why Miami was able to beat Duke. I think, honestly, that's why the referees missed an obvious down on that play. The 8 laterals that got Miami into the end zone to be victorious in the last play of the game. I honestly believe that's why all that happened. Not that Miami was the better team, but for the fact that they were in a position that they should have not have been, and karma finally catches up with you when stuff like that happens. Definitely going to give people and schools and media and so-called experts a lot to talk about tonight, tomorrow night, and it definitely could give them something to talk about. Definitely excited about the fact that the new polls are out. Obviously, it shakes things up. Helps take a couple teams out of the comfort zone. Puts a couple teams, on alert. Look, you got to fix things. Something. So, you got to do something to get yourself in a position. So glad to see the polls. I'm glad to see that things are about to get a little heated over the next few weeks, next 4 to 5 weeks. Looking forward to seeing how the polls and these teams perform. Johnny Manziel expected to start Thursday at Cincinnati. Being a Browns fan, I don't know how I quite feel about this. I honestly can tell you how I feel about this. The Browns sitting, 2-5, 1 win by Josh McCown, 1 win by Johnny Manziel. Honestly, I believe Johnny Manziel is the better of the 2 quarterbacks, but here is where the twist comes into play. all we heard last year from the NFL is we need to stop domestic violence, that there's no place for domestic violence in the NFL. The NFL dumps money into a foundation that promotes stopping domestic violence. It has NFL present and retired players in their commercials promoting stop the domestic violence. And I kept preaching that this was just smoke and mirrors. The NFL is not serious about this. That this was just a way to make themselves look good. This is a way to help out a foundation that is really trying to do something. But it makes the NFL look good. It gets people off their back, and it gives the charity some money. But I said, to prove my point, the first time the NFL has a domestic violence issue, we will figure out how they truly feel about it, where their stance truly is, and we'll be able to judge from there. And what happens? Johnny Manziel gets pulled over, gets a police report that states that his girlfriend has marks from when he hits her. In the report, it says that she told the cops that he smashed her face or pushed her face into the window, and therefore you have your first domestic issue. You have your first domestic violence fiasco, or whatever you want to call it, fiasco. And so now the ball was in the NFL's hand. Instead of making true the money you invested into this foundation, and instead of saving face and showing the world that you truly care about stopping domestic violence, you do absolutely nothing, and Johnny Manziel's about to be the starting quarterback this Thursday night. Just a week and a half removed from the incident. Proving my point, this was all smoke and beers, and it was just a publicity stunt to make themselves look good. To prove my point that once something actually happened, they weren't going to do nothing. And so even though Josh McCown has gotten the Browns one of their wins, Johnny Manziel's got them one of their wins, and honestly, Johnny Manziel looks like the better of the two quarterbacks. I don't think Johnny Manziel should be playing for 8 games. I am still standing on this, that I feel if you commit domestic violence, if this is really an issue, the NFL, and you really want this issue out of your league, any player that gets charged or convicted or has a police report of any sort from the results of a domestic dispute or domestic violence, more specifically, you're done for at least 8 games. Wipe out at least half their season. Hell, I would prefer you wipe out the full season. I'm happy with just getting 8 games, half the season gone. So therefore, in my books, in my mind, if the NFL was serious, Johnny Manziel would not be starting this weekend. Johnny Manziel would be serving probably the first, maybe second, depending on how quick they push it. But second game of a 8-game suspension in my books. So even though I feel Johnny Manziel is a better player and gives them a better opportunity to win, because how serious I take the domestic violence issue and how serious I want the NFL to take it instead of just dumping money into a foundation and make themselves feel better, I would rather have the lesser of the two quarterbacks on the field or even a third-string quarterback on the field than to have Johnny Manziel on the field, because I feel by having Johnny Manziel on the football field, You are doing women no justice. You are doing Stop the Domestic Violence Movement no justice. And honestly, it's really a slap in the face for anybody that has ever been domestically violated. And that's, there's no way to sugarcoat that. That's just not my opinion. That is a fact. That's just like someone raping somebody and letting them play in the NFL. And it be documented that it happened. That is kind of a slap in the face to anybody that's ever been raped. It's the same thing. Reports came out, the police report comes out, physical proof on her body, statements from her saying that he shoved her face into the window. This is not just an opinion. This is not some stuff just made up. This is in the actual police report. Therefore, I have zero tolerance. And even though it is my Cleveland Browns, I hope somebody domestically violates him to the extreme come this weekend. If the NFL is not man enough, if Roger Goodell does not have balls to do the right thing, I hope somebody out there on the defense goes ahead and makes an example of why people out there, grown men that think that they're big, bad, and whatever because they play in the NFL, why they should not put their hands on women for any reason at all. I understand, and I'm not going to get in all the speed. Yes, I understand some females push the buttons. I understand that some females out there get into it just as much as a man, and I understand all that. But being how they're riding in the vehicle and being how Johnny Manziel had been drinking, obviously there was a lot more to it than her just pushing some buttons. Obviously, he found himself in a situation that was agitated, had a little bit too much to drink, and didn't know how to handle himself, handle the pressure, and decided, you know what, I'm big, bad Johnny Football. I can't beat up no guys on Sunday because, hell, I can't even get into a football game. Yeah, I was a product of a few reach arounds while I was in rehab. I got to get my, make sure that I get my supplies, and I got to do what I got to do to get those supplies. You know what I'm saying? But since I can't slap nobody around on the field, and really I'm just an arrogant ass, I'm going to slap my girlfriend around. And NFL, they're not serious about this whole stop the domestic violence. No, it's really, it's the NFL. When are they ever serious about anything? They're going to let Ray Rice play football. He knocked out his old lady, drug her out of an elevator. Greg Hardy, I mean, come on. Shoot, I'm Johnny Football. I patented the whole money logo. I do what I want. I make money autographing this and doing that while I was in college football, partying up, playing by my own rules. Hell, since I've been in Cleveland, I done went to rehab. I done been at parties. The playbook. Yeah, there's a reason why I don't know the whole playbook. I'm too busy partying and slapping my girlfriend. I ain't got time to learn no playbook. I might be bad. Look, my only competition is Josh McCown and another quarterback ain't nobody heard of. How much of this playbook do I really need to know? I'm Johnny Manziel. That's all it is. Egotistical brats. I mean, so you really want to know how I feel about Johnny Football starting Thursday night? That's how I feel about him starting Thursday night. I feel he should not be allowed to play for 8 games until the NFL stops just dumping money into a foundation, making themselves to look good because we support a Stop Domestic Violence foundation, and actually do something, actually suspend these players, not let them play football, not let them get paid for 8 games and become an afterthought. I guarantee if you start making these players, you make Johnny Football sit for 8 weeks, not get paid, not be able to participate in anything because he couldn't keep his hand off his girlfriend. I guarantee the Cleveland Browns by the end of the season, you say, you know what, we're finally done. Now you're behind the ball. Now you're pretty much probably going to be out of shape. Now you more likely have 8 weeks to do nothing. You're probably going to be back to snorting whatever you would snort I mean, I know it's sad to say, but I'm sorry. There's no place, and if the NFL doesn't get their act together, there's going to be some lawsuits and there's going to be some other things. Because if you can't get your players under control and ain't got the balls, Fidel does not have the kahunas to actually suspend somebody worthwhile to make an example and prove a point, it's never going to stop. Never. I mean, it's kind of like steroids in baseball. I mean, until they started cracking down, look how that blew up. I mean, we can name until the NBA had to crack down because Ron Artest, Meta World Peace, decided to go up into the stands and start beating up fans. I mean, they had no control over their situation. I mean, this is what happens if you just start being slack and letting the players run the asylum instead of taking charge and making it your NFL and setting an example and setting the standard. But that's how I honestly feel about Johnny Manziel starting this weekend. He should be sitting on an 8-game, a minimum. Like I said, I prefer a year, but I'd be happy if an 8-game suspension is what they hand out for domestic violence. And like I said, it's not anything that's being made up. It's in their police report. So that is what it is. But, with Johnny football playing, maybe there's an opportunity that the Cincinnati Bengals won't be undefeated no more. I'm not going to pick my Cleveland Browns, and I'm not expecting them to watch. I will sit here Thursday night while I'm running the studio and producing Racing with Big Sweat, kicking off at 9 o'clock, but I will have one eye glued on my Cleveland Browns playing Thursday Night Football against an undefeated Cincinnati Bengals team. But we got Patrick Taylor joining us. He's in the studio now, so without any further delay, let's get him on the show. How are you doing tonight, Patrick?
Good, man. Hanging in there. How about you?
I can't complain. Before we jump into this, let's get this knocked out real quick because we got a lot of things to talk about in the next 28 minutes. Go ahead and plug yourself, your sites, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, anything and everything you want to get out there real quick.
All righty, man. Lineblower.com, your source for outcome prediction and sports insight. Our Twitter handle, line_blower, same thing for Instagram. And then, of course, like us on Facebook.
Now, ironically enough, 2 weeks in a row, we're on Monday nights, and we're talking about the lopsidedness of a football game. And we get off last week, and we figured Baltimore's done. This game's kind of a wrap. Same thing. We get off last night and assume that the fact that the Indianapolis Colts could only muster up 6 whole points, that the 23-6 lead was kind of going to be the kind of the pace the rest of this game. And we get off the air once again, and that's not what happens at all. As a matter of fact, the Indianapolis Colts goes on a 17-0 run, sends this game into overtime to watch both these teams score a field goal before a very critical turnover. Harper tipping the pass, Kuechly coming down with the interception, and ultimately setting up the Carolina Panthers for an opportunity to have a game-winning field goal, which they land. But crap, what is with the Monday Night Football games taking a complete 180 spin as soon as we get off the air?
Yeah, that's crazy. Another crazy but really entertaining last quarter of Monday Night Football. I mean, just last week, the Ravens and the Cardinals, it was pretty much over, you know, when we're on the air, and then we hang up the phone, I hang up the phone, sit on the couch, and it takes off. I mean, I was watching Andrew Luck had been about as bad as really a pro quarterback could be. I know you made the comparison to Drew Bledsoe, but I mean, I was thinking the guy looked like Ryan Leaf last night. I mean, he was 5 for 14 for 40 yards, 2 picks, up until that 8-minute mark in the fourth where the Colts were down 23-6. I mean, his last pick in regulation there before they came back was about as bad of a throw as I've ever seen a quarterback make at that high of a level. And somehow, some way, he flips a switch, drives the Colts down. They go on to score 20 answer points really in about 10 minutes, counting overtime. He does make another critical mistake there in overtime where Kuechly picks off a pass that was deflected by Roman Harper and sets up the Graham Gano kick to win the game. You know, the Colts continue to struggle outside of that 10-minute run they had with all the points. They looked like a really bad football team that lost and really lacked leadership. from a coaching standpoint and from a captain and quarterback standpoint by Luck. Shocking thing is, I mean, Andrew Luck right now, he leads the league in interception with 12. They were talking last night, is he hurt? I didn't think he was hurt, but if he really is hurt, and he needs to make the decision that, you can't let your team down. I mean, you remember it was the Texans, but Matt Hasselbeck was able to come in and win a game when Luck couldn't go. So interesting to see the Colts kind of continue to spiral. They put together a heck of a run, made it interesting for everybody. Can't say enough about Cam Newton. He's continued to play at a very high level when the game has mattered most in the fourth quarter, and then they're in overtime to make a pass and get him a little closer to make that field goal. He'll be in the Pro Bowl this year, and he's a big reason why the Panthers right now are 7-0 heading into Green Bay next week.
Now, I kind of got both sides, both teams I want to talk about for a second. First, of course, being down here in North Carolina, you had all the Carolina Panthers, and I even had customers in their stand there talking to me today and noticing all those and everybody's in Carolina Panthers stuff. And I know it's easy to get wrapped up in the fact that we're 7-0 and we're top of the NFC South, and this is the first time in NFL history there's been 4 undefeated teams at 7-0, and everything else that could be drawn into it. Carolina fans need to understand one thing: you've played nobody to this point, and yes, you're going to go to the playoffs. There is no doubt in my mind. If it's a wild card or you take the division, depending on how Atlanta plays the rest of the season out. I think it's very, very feasible that Atlanta wins and sweeps the whole Carolina-Atlanta series there, even with the loss to Tampa Bay. But Carolina fans, don't get ahead of yourself. Yes, you've got a playoff run coming, but you've played nobody. We would like to see how you fare up against legitimate teams. Of course, the Green Bay game coming up is obviously going to give you some kind of feel. My only concern is we're coming off Aaron Rodgers' 77-yard passing performance. So, obviously we don't expect it to duplicate, but also has got to build some confidence for Carolina knowing that Aaron Rodgers can be stopped. But more importantly, on the other side of the ball, I want to talk about for a second, Indianapolis sitting 3-5, and I want to get your opinion when it comes to this. We watched Seattle, go 7-9 a handful of years back and win the first playoff game against the New Orleans Saints, and, of course, then fall short. And then last year we watched Carolina go into the playoffs 7-8-1. Yes, they win the first playoff game. They beat Arizona. You remember that Arizona team that didn't have their first, second, third. I don't even know if they had a fourth. I think they had a water boy out there as their quarterback, and essentially that's what cost the Arizona Cardinals the first round loss to the Carolina Panthers. Because up until they lost their quarterbacks, Arizona was one of the best teams in the league. I have an issue with the NFL allowing a team that can't even win 50% of their games to be in the playoffs. I would assume, I would rather the NFL give you the top 8, top 6 of each side and go with it that way versus we having to allow a team such as the Indianapolis Colts. Now, don't get me wrong, they can turn it around and they can have a plus 500 record. But to this point so far, the only 3 games they've won is against a 1-6 Tennessee team, a 2-5 Jacksonville team, and a 3-5 Houston team. Anybody outside of the division, they cannot beat. So I have an issue, and I want to know what's your take on it. But I have an issue with the team being rewarded with an opportunity to be in the playoffs and win the Super Bowl when you can't even win 50% of your games.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make much sense on paper when you look at it, at first glance. The one thing I'll say, there has to be some kind of incentive for winning your division, and the reason I say that is because half of the games are played in your division. You play each team in your division twice, so there does have to be an incentive there. And on top of that, it's kind of comparing apples to oranges, just because all the other teams play different divisions. So, this year, for example, the NFC East and the AFC South are both a real possibility of maybe even having 2 teams, whether it's a team out of the NFC East, the Eagles, Cowboys, Giants, Redskins that win the division are 8-8, 7-9, or the AFC South where the Colts are still atop the division with a losing record. That being said, they're playing different divisions than some of the other teams are playing when they're not playing divisional games. So it's tough. And really, unfortunately, in those games where it's happened, like you said, that year the Seahawks really took it to the Saints at home, and then this past year, the Cardinals did have basically a water boy out there playing quarterback, but there still has to be an incentive for winning your division, especially in football. And I mean, you see this in the NBA too, where you have teams in the East that are sub 500 teams that get into the playoffs, and then teams in the West who have 8 games, 9 games above 500 and have to sit at home and watch. It's tough, but it's not going to change. And I mean, it'd be interesting to see how they can maybe implement it. And if, for example, 2 teams this year make the playoffs and are sub 500, I mean, it will for sure be talked about in the offseason, without a doubt, with the competition committee and the NFL executives. It will be definitely a top topic of discussion in the offseason owners meetings, without a doubt.
And 2 points we got to see. We got to jump into. One, with the whole basketball thing, I agree. And the way I look at it, especially since your Western Conference teams are your much better teams. I'm sorry, but if you can't beat 500, in other words, we have 2 teams in the East under 500. I'm sorry, I would rather have 12 teams come out, or 10 teams come out of the West and only 6 teams out of the East, having 16 teams, 8 on each side, and do it that way so we have the best 16 teams versus we got to have 8 out of the Western Conference and 8 out of the Eastern Conference, because that's the way it's structured, regardless if we have teams that can't even win 500. I'm sorry, but I have a problem. I just have this problem. If you can't win at least 50% of your games, you can't at least go 41-41 or whatever the case may be, then I have a serious issue. You should be able to have a positive record and be rewarded. When you talk about the NFL and there should be some kind of reward for winning your division, that's right there is your reward. You won the division. Regardless if you're allowed to go in the playoffs with a sub-500 record, you are still the we'll use the Indianapolis Colts. You're still the AFC South division champion. That can't be taken from you. And I'm sorry, I know that's not what you were looking for, and obviously what the Colts are hoping for. But if I was Roger Goodell, that's how it would be. You couldn't go 500. You're not allowed in the playoffs. You got to at least prove that you're a winning team. But we'll still crown you as your division champion. You get that title, you got to go ahead and print your shirt off, make your money off of it, and hang your banner, because that is rightfully yours to display. But there's 2 other teams out there that are sitting 10-6, 11-5, or whatever the case may be. I mean, hell, we can go back to when Matt Castle led the New England Patriots, and they 11-5, 10-6, whatever the record. I think it was 11-5. I think it was the first 11-5 team, maybe 10-6 team, not to make the playoffs. There's teams like that we see on a regular basis that don't get to go to the playoffs because they happen to be in a division that was tough, versus being in a division that you didn't have to win 500, you beat 500 to win your division. Sorry, I just have an issue with that. Joseph Randle was cut by the Dallas Cowboys, starting running back for the Cowboys, after watching McFadden put on the display 150 yards this last weekend. The Cowboys decided they were going to cut him and part ways with him. One, is this a good move or bad move for the Dallas Cowboys? Was this more of a salary move, in your opinion? And then also, do we have any possible matches for Joseph Randle out there?
Yeah, Cowboys released Joseph Randle. He was their opening day starter at running back. He was, the heir apparent for DeMarco Murray. He's been in all sorts of little issues off the field. You had the issue where he stole the underwear and the Gucci cologne from a department store, and then over the summer he had an issue with his son's mom and former girlfriend, where there was scents of marijuana being smoked in a hotel room, and talks about a gun being in the room. That was in the past. The Cowboys were reluctant really to hold on to him at that point. And then open up the season, he really hasn't, taken off with his performance on the field. And just this past Wednesday, he left Valley Ranch, immediately and was real paranoid about some things going on at home, to the point that there was a police report and the police were called to his home to check on his girlfriend. No wrongdoing was found, but the Cowboys basically can't handle the drama anymore in relativity to his production on the field. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think if Joseph Randle's having a heck of a year playing running back, they can deal with it more than any other team can look past some of these issues that are going on off the field. I mean, you look at the type of players they've brought in, they're pretty accustomed to having some drama going on. So, quite simply, his off-the-field issues were not worth the headache, and the reliability wasn't there on the field either. He never really looked comfortable in the off-season or during the season at running back, and he also had a suspension looming that was going to be coming down and will still come down. 1 or 2 games, I think, is what the talk is, but that is in terms of to what happened over the summer with his girlfriend. According to Dallas management, Randall has a lot of personal issues going on, and they really basically said, hey, you need to take care of your personal stuff because it's obviously carrying over to the workplace. Anytime a professional, anything, has personal issues that are drawn into the workplace and it becomes a distraction, it's, more times not the fact that you'll, move on from that employee. So that'll leave McFadden the starter. Little concerning just because he has an injury bug, but he's looked good, the first couple games and really looked comfortable the last, 2 weeks in that offense. And Kristen Michael will be the second stringer who the Cowboys acquired from Seattle. And then Rod Smith, who's a newly acquired player as well. They picked him up off of waivers from Seattle. As far as other teams taking a look at Randall, I think if the Cowboys are going to move on from him, that's a pretty big flag that there's some serious issues going on there. I mean, if they can't handle it, I don't see a whole lot of teams jumping at the bit to get him in there. So I would be surprised if he's picked up, during the course of the season. But, hey, injuries have their way of changing things. I mean, you never know. The Steelers lose another running back and that sort of thing. Maybe he will get a second chance. But he will have a suspension to serve, probably 1 or 2 games, and then whatever he has going on personally, I think will at least push him over into the next offseason as far as being picked up by somebody.
Next topic on the list is the Browns. Obviously, as you were hearing the end of my rant about Manziel starting this Thursday, but Manziel starting Thursday night against the Cincinnati Bengals, and the fact that Joe Thomas is going to stay with the Cleveland Browns, I thought it was really interesting. I heard reports up to Denver at least giving 1 first round. I don't know how much they were willing to give up, and it was really coming down to the last minutes. Also, Mack was part of a trade. He has a no trade clause in his contract and was not going to budge on it. He did not want to leave Cleveland Browns. So obviously things didn't pan out. As a matter of fact, there wasn't a lot of things that panned out. I honestly thought going into the day we'd have seen a little bit more action in the free agency going on, being how it locked up at 4 o'clock today. So I was kind of surprised with that. But Manziel to start, Thomas stays in Cleveland. One, what's your thoughts on both of those topics, and then also Cleveland versus Cincinnati? I'm sorry, I can't go with my Cleveland Browns at this point. Cincinnati's looking too good. What's your thought on this game as well?
Yeah, I mean, McCown's dealing with an injury, so they're giving Manziel the nod at quarterback. Manziel, obviously, as you talked earlier, has some personal and possibly legal implication that he's been tied up in. Whether he put his hands on his girlfriend, he did have alcohol in his system. I mean, these are all big issues considering the guy was at a rehab over the summer. And I mean, for him to have alcohol in his system at this point has to be very concerning for the Browns. Mix that with a short week. He has off-the-field distractions. He's got a short week. It'll be interesting to see how he comes out and performs. I mean, I was talking about Joseph Randall when you have personal issues. I mean, that definitely shows up at work sometimes. So a short week to prepare for a very good team. Be interesting to see how he handles it. Joe Thomas staying put, like you said, both teams were willing to deal, but proper compensation really was never met, and they couldn't come to terms with exactly what they could receive in exchange for Thomas. I think it's smart for the Browns, on one hand, to try and leverage a real strong return for a really dynamic player. I was afraid, just with their history, that they'd just give him away for nothing in hopes of trying to get picks and that sort of thing. So glad they did so short on a rare commodity. But the Browns head into Cincinnati as 10-point underdogs as they take on the undefeated Bengals. Manziel, he'll have to take care of the football, but he also is going to have to find that happy medium where he's taking enough risks to keep this thing competitive, because the Browns defense has quietly been making a name for themselves. They forced 4 turnovers last week in Arizona, let the game slip away late. Andy Dalton has proven over the years, not as much this year, that he can turn the ball over. and he showed a little bit of that last week in Pittsburgh. So the Browns will need to force some turnovers. Manziel's going to have to keep this thing competitive while taking care of the ball, but also assessing the risks and moving that ball down the field. I think it'll be a sloppy game, similar to kind of how the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Bengals played out, just last week. I really think the Browns have a decent shot to maybe win, but I just don't think at the end they'll have enough. Have a lower scoring game, 20-13, Cincinnati wins.
Green Bay and Carolina. You got the tale of two different stories. Carolina coming off a win, coming off a short week, but they have back-to-back home games. So the short week, Monday night going to Sunday, not such a big issue since you didn't have to go nowhere. Green Bay coming off a weekend that I guarantee they wish they could forget about it and wish that the conversation of Aaron Rodgers and the 77 total passing yards would just go away. Should be a really good game, either way how it falls. I just think that this is Carolina's first loss. This is their first true opponent. Green Bay, obviously, we're going to go with the whole relaxed slogan as they went last year. I think that Aaron Rodgers and that Green Bay Packers team come out and kind of save face and show the world that, look, last week was just a fluke. That was the best defense in the league. We had an off night. We are the Green Bay Packers. We have a lot of pride, a lot of history. This is just the Carolina Panthers team that's not played nobody. I have Carolina going into Green Bay and winning. Or, I'm sorry, I have Green Bay going into Carolina and winning. I think I said it all backwards.
You're good. Yeah, I mean, this is really the premier game of the week as far as matchups go. Packers 2.5-point favorites as they take on the Panthers. As Mike McCarthy put it in his press conference after the Broncos, they're coming off an ass-kicking, in Denver, that Aaron Rodgers and McCarthy and that whole staff is going to really be remembered as they're preparing this week, I feel like. Panthers, obviously, as we mentioned before, kind of had an emotional, sloppy win. And keep in mind, they played on a Monday, so they're going to be a day short on prep time versus the Packers. So the Panthers already beat a decent Seattle team. Other than Seattle, they haven't really faced anybody too dynamic in the sense like an Aaron Rodgers or anybody like that. So mix that with the fact that the Panthers are dealing with some injuries on the defensive line. I really think that showed last night in that that 10-minute run where the Colts kind of got back into it. They just couldn't get to luck where they, in the beginning of the game they were. So Carmelo Rodgers proving that last week was a fluke. I mean, he's a bad man. I'd hate to play him pissed off and after a butt whooping like he took in Denver. And then, a defensive line that's banged up for Carolina and the short week and the emotional game they played on Monday night. I think the Packers will roll. I think it'll be 35-17 Green Bay. And Packers get back on track. Panthers get their first loss of the season. Not of all the games this week, I think this is definitely the most intriguing, but I think it's Green Bay's win, and Aaron Rodgers proves that last week was indeed a fluke.
Now, speaking of intriguing, this next game you have on this list is very intriguing, and that's the Raiders and the Steelers. And as much as I want to believe that the Raiders are getting better and better every week, which they are, but to what extent, we're not quite sure. And then we got the Steelers that I don't even know how to describe the Steelers. They got all their pieces back, except Bell. He gets hurt again, of course. Coming off the suspension, then gets hurt. But your receivers, you got all your receiver pieces back. You got Big Ben back. And yet you couldn't muster up but 10 points against the Cincinnati Bengals team. Now, obviously, the Oakland Raiders defense is not as good as Cincinnati, and obviously sloppy play and turnovers are going to cost you a game such as they did against Cincinnati. But I'm not sure if I have enough confidence that the Raiders can maximize on opportunities. I would like to think so, but then also you're traveling to Heinz Field and you're playing a Pittsburgh Steelers team that's is tough at home. This is a very interesting game. More than likely, when it comes down to when I sit and do my pick, I'm probably going to go with Oakland. They've seemed not to let me down so far. But I tell you what, this game of two teams that are we got Oakland sitting at 4-3, and we got the Steelers sitting 4-4. Two teams that are kind of evenly matched up when it comes to record and what we've seen so far. this game should be a very interesting game. Yeah, it's not going to be the high-profile Green Bay and Panthers game, or maybe some of the other high-profile games that we might have an opportunity to see this weekend. As I'm looking at the schedule, to even have another high-profile game. I guess the Philadelphia-Dallas game is the next high-profile game, and it's just because it's a NFC East matchup, not so much for the fact that they're two good teams this year. But this game right here has got to be one of those games that's got to be circled on everybody's roster, because we talked about this the other night. You got 3 undefeated teams in the AFC. Then you only got 3 teams right now that are in contention for the wild card. Everybody else is below 500. And in order to keep that trend going, Steelers obviously need to win to stay above 500, and Oakland wants to win to stay so they're not just at 500. So this game, to me, has got to be one of those games that's circled on a lot of people's calendar for this week, because this game could dictate which one of these teams actually goes to the playoffs or, has home field advantage possibly against each other. I like this matchup, and this is definitely a game that I'm going to tune into. What's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, we've talked about Oakland quite a bit in the last 2 weeks. They're on the road in Pittsburgh, obviously a tough place to play, with Pittsburgh coming off a pretty sloppy game against Cincinnati. Oakland's 4-point underdog. I really like Oakland. We talked about them in detail, like I said, the last couple of weeks, but Steelers are banged up, and I think the struggle's a little realer in Pittsburgh than people want to admit. Big Ben was noticeably hobbling around last week. They lose Le'Veon Bell. That Le'Veon Bell was really the identity of that offense. They could give him the ball and get 30 yards and put him in good second and third conversion possibilities, to get first downs on second and third down. The Steelers have the 6th best scoring defense, but they're giving up a lot more yards than points. So 6th in scoring, but 20th in yards given up. I think David Carr will take advantage of his opportunities yet again. And I think Woodson will add another pick to continue to lead the league. I got to go with the Raiders in the upset. I just think with the injuries the Steelers have and the momentum and the youth in Oakland, I like Oakland to win by a touchdown.
And then the last matchup, there we go, last matchup. There, I'm going to get this right. The last matchup we're going to talk about real quick before we hit the 10 o'clock hour, the Cowboys and Eagles. 2 teams that are nowhere close to where we thought they would be sitting. Chip Kelly-led team, we've seen the last year or so really play at a much higher caliber. Dallas, a lot of expectations, and was looking good 2-0 until Romo and Dez Bryant go out. Of course, Dez Bryant's made his way back. Tony Romo has it to this point of lost 5 straight games. 2 teams sitting at the bottom, but even sitting at 2-5, you're not that far out of first place with the Giants only sitting 4-4. Obviously, this is a very important game for both of these teams. As the Philadelphia Eagles would love to go 4-4 and tie up with the Giants, and of course Dallas would like to be able to win something, have something to go off of before you get everybody back and you move forward and trying to reclaim the top of the NFC East. What's your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, this is a huge, huge game for 2 teams. The Cowboys 2-5, the Eagles 3-4. If Dallas can pull off a win, they'll be ahead of the Eagles just on the divisional tiebreaker. And with the Giants only being 4-4, they'll be right back in the mix, as they would have to. The Cowboys play Tampa Bay next week, so ideally, if the Cowboys could pull off a win without Romo, they'll move to 3-5. If they can beat a young and lowly Bucs team, they could be 4-5, and the Giants lose, and the Cowboys are tied for first. In 2 weeks after all that's happened, Romo will be back. So this is really make or break for the Cowboys, and equally so for the Eagles. The Eagles, they're coming off a bye, so they're going to be nice and rested. They'll get back Kiko Alonso, one of their linebackers they picked up from Buffalo, in the LaShawn McCoy trade. He's coming off a knee injury that he suffered against Dallas. Big emotional return of DeMarco Murray to Dallas. Probably didn't think he'd be coming maybe as a backup running back when he signed that big deal, but Brian Matthews has been the more effective back, so there'll be some storyline there. The Matt Castle experiment continues in Dallas. I don't know. It's a tough call. I think my gut just kind of tells me, and maybe it's my heart because I'm a Cowboys fan, but Dallas's defense has really stepped up the last couple of weeks, even though they haven't been able to win. And we take it back to week 2 where Dallas had held them to basically 0 yards rushing the entire game. I think Dallas defense will put on a similar performance as they did in week 2. Castle somehow puts just enough points on the board. I think the Cowboys win at home 16-10.
That's a pretty bold prediction. I think the Dallas Cowboys will finally get another win without Tony Romo, so I'm not going to disagree with that. Patrick, as always, it has been great to have you on the show. You have no idea how much it means to us to have you on the show Mondays and Tuesday nights. Make sure you guys check him out over at lineblower.com. You guys follow him on Twitter, line_blower. And same as on Instagram, and check out their Facebook page over on Facebook, Line Blower as well. We constantly share stuff from their page over there, so it's very easily to be able to click on it from our Facebook page, as I constantly try to share everything I can possible over there. Patrick, looking forward to Week 9 in the NFL. Looking forward to the opportunity to sit down with you Monday, 10 o'clock, and do this all over again. You enjoy the rest of this week, Thursday night game, especially the Battle of Ohio, and we'll be talking again throughout the week, and look forward to sitting down with you Monday.
Perfect, man. You guys take care. We'll talk with you soon.
Yes, sir. You have a great night. That was Patrick Taylor from Line Blower. Make sure you guys check them out. And I told you at the very beginning, we're doing things a little bit different tonight. Normally we have Patrick join us at 10 o'clock from 10 to 10:30. We switched that up, threw him in at the 9:30 slot because we have a very special guest tonight joining us. And not only are we changing things up, we're going to change co-hosts for this 30-minute segment as well. We got Shorty. She's going to be stepping in here. We're going to have a little lady-on-lady talk time here, as I'm going to let them do their thing. I'm going to be chiming in here throughout this next 30 minutes of the show, but we wanted to change things up a little bit and get a little different perspective on tonight's show. So looking forward for the opportunity not only having Miss Deanna on the show, and I'm going to avoid saying the last name until we get her on the show because I do not want to jack this up. I've tried to pronounce it probably twice already, and I know that I've messed it up every time. But not only that, I'm looking for the opportunity of watching my protege here step in and try to fill the shoes of Mr. CJ Sports. So definitely want to thank Shorty for stepping in here and taking advantage of this opportunity, and looking forward to seeing what we get to learn about Miss Deanna tonight.
Welcome to the show, Deanna.
Hi, it's Dina. Thank you.
Dina, hello. Sorry, I am very new at this, so cut me some slack.
No worries. It's okay.
I've interviewed before, and that was with Mr. CJ. But I want to give you an opportunity to plug in your social media.
I really don't have. I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on any of that. I'm on what is it, Facebook? But that's about it. So I'll just plug my team. How's that?
All right, you can go ahead and plug your team.
All right. That's the San Diego Surge.com. They're also on Facebook. I am as well under Dina Simmons Guidry. And the WSA Football.net. That's our Women's Football Alliance. That's our league.
All right. I guess I will start off asking you some questions. I'm sorry. Like I said, give me I'm very new at this. What age did you start playing football?
I actually started playing football in 2005. My dad is a football coach, or he was a football coach, and it started out where football practice was my babysitter. So when I was growing up, back in Decatur, Illinois, I used to go to football practice with him, and that's how I actually learned football. I went to play in high school, but my dad having the pull around town that he did, the coach wouldn't allow me to play. So once I got old enough and I could, then I went for it, and in 2005, that was my first year with the LA Amazons.
What team did your dad coach? Or was it?
He coached. It was a high school team. It was a high school team in Decatur, Illinois, called the MacArthur Generals.
All right, that's cool. Did you play any other sports as a child, or was it just like you just loved football?
I did a lot of sports. So I did gymnastics, cheerleading, cross country, track, basketball. I was in some of everything.
Wow. That's
so all around athlete. And then I went on to UCLA. I had a full ride scholarship in track and field. So I competed in track and field from 96 to 2001 there at UCLA. So go Bruins. I'm a Bruin alumni. And then right after college, I competed professionally until 2004. I went to the Olympic trials in 2000 and 2004. Did not make the Olympics, but at least I could say I placed. And right after I got done with track, I started football. I found out that there was actually a girl on my UCLA track team that told me about it. And so I decided to try out. And that year, I began with the LA Amazons. I played with them until 2010. And then in 2011, I played with the San Diego Surge, and that's where I am now.
And this is DJ. I want to step in for a second. How much pressure is it for you to try out for the Olympics? You know, we see the athletes as they prepare themselves, and you get to hear their background of the story, but you never get to really hear how tough it is.
There we go.
Well,
I'm sure now I just got louder. I didn't realize I was still muted. But I'm just curious on how much pressure was on you, and how hard is it to have the opportunity and to make the Olympics? We don't get to hear a lot about the pressure behind it and everything else. You kind of get to hear the success stories, or you kind of get to watch the specials leading up to the Olympics. But what kind of pressure is it, and how stiff is the competition to make Team USA?
Oh my goodness! For track and field, you're talking about, correct?
Yes.
For track and field, it is amazingly difficult. I don't think people actually understand the competition that is out there. I am a triple jumper. Well, I was a triple jumper, and American women, we, for lack of a better word, we suck. When it compared to the rest of the world, we're very far behind. We're very far behind. It's not like the sprinters where you see them in the top 3 every year in, year out. You hardly ever see any American women triple jumping in the Olympics. And there's a reason, because we're not as developed. We're not as good here. So the actual pressure, there really wasn't any, because there was really, people don't expect you to do much anyway, just because we haven't been in that position. And, of course, we were trying to change that for a while, but we're kind of lacking again now. But the training with Bob Kersey, I actually got to train with Bob Kersey and Jackie Joyner-Kersee. I had to work out with her before, and Gail Devers and, Joanna Hayes. I'm an old head now, so I'm sure a lot of these people don't understand those names, but I actually got to train with them. Michelle Perry, Allison Felix, and being around that group of women is amazing. They make you want to train. They make you want to work harder. And so for me, there wasn't that much pressure. The only thing I had was, competing against myself, because I was trying to do something that no other American had done before. And it just so happened that I ended up getting hurt right before the 2004 Olympic trials, and that's when I decided to end my track career. But Bobby Kersey is an amazing, amazing coach. He will pull, talent out you never knew you had. He will push you to your extremes, and you'll be better for it.
Now, I'm not going to say that track and field is not a physical sport. I don't want to have that whole thing just like Jonathan McNabb saying that race car drivers are not athletes. I don't want to say that it's not a physical sport, but compared to football, it's not quite as physical.
I'll say it for you.
When you're
track and
preparing
field
yourself,
is not a physical sport.
Do what now?
I said I'll say it for you. Track and field is not a physical sport.
But when you were training and preparing yourself for track and field versus football, which one did you have to push yourself harder? Which one was a little bit hard, maybe harder to get yourself physically prepared for? Out there competing with some of the fastest athletes in the world, or getting out there and preparing yourself to be out there with some of the strongest athletes in the world?
It's completely different. You're comparing apples to oranges. My workouts that I had for track, I will never, ever do again. I can honestly say I will never do that again in life because I don't want to. I don't have the desire to put my body or my mind through that. Those were the hardest workouts I have ever done in my life, point blank. But then again, I had a coach like Bobby Kersey, who has many athletes under his belt that are Olympians. For football, I played so many different positions. There were so many things I needed to learn as far as technique, and because I started running track when I was like 6 years old. I started playing football, later in life when I was in my 20s. So there was a large learning curve. I needed to learn so much. I needed to catch up, and I'm still catching up because the guys, they start when they're 5, 6 years old, but we don't. Well, now we do, but back then we didn't. So I would say it's completely different workouts, but they both are very challenging. And right now, like, you can make anything as challenging as you want it to be. And to be the best, especially in football, and something that really isn't known for women to compete in and to be very, very good at, you have to be extremely good to catch people's attention, especially, or to be compared against our male counterparts.
Do you have any plans for the upcoming season, or any plans to further your career in football?
Oh, now I think my team got to you. I'm not sure if I'm going to play this year yet. I'm still debating. I'm going to try to get my body prepared and get my body ready to play so that if I decide to play, I'll be ready and in shape. However, I'm not sure quite yet. I'm not 100% sure that I'll play this year.
Is it, I guess now it's time for, the deep down. Is it hard for your league to compete against the quote-unquote lingerie football? It's very difficult. They have a lot of the marketing. They're on TV. They're very well known in society. That's one of the biggest questions. That's the first question I get asked when I tell people I play football. First, soccer? No, American football. Oh, the lingerie? No. It's real tackle, football. We play college rules or NFL rules, depending on which year, you played in. And we actually play outside. We're full gear. We go at it. And they look surprised. A lot of people know more about the lingerie league or the Legends Football League than they do the WFA or the IWFL. And that has been the biggest challenge, is getting our name out there and also getting from beneath that cloud cover of, lingerie football. It's not just about TNA. It's actually about a sport. Yes. Do you have any hard feelings against the women who play? I mean, I know it's not, I know it's not there. Yeah.
I know several women who play, and I have no hard feelings against them. They're doing what they think is best, and they did what they thought was best at that time. It's turned out different than what I think everyone in the beginning had thought it was going to be. We all started, playing football to advance the sport, to advance women's football, to get the word out there that women can play just like the guys can. We started very much like, the women playing basketball before they got backed by the NBA and they became the WNBA. We're trying to get to that point where we're backed also by, a solid foundation, a solid organization that can take us seriously. What happened with the lingerie football is that it became more of entertainment than actually advancing the sport. And I think that's where a lot of the confrontation and all the ill feelings come from.
All right. So do you guys feel like they take away from the legitimacy of football? I mean, yes, they're running around with their, with the butt cheek tabs hanging out. I mean, do you feel
it
like
has
it takes
come
away?
To that. It does now, yes, absolutely. When it first started out, the problem that a lot of the, I'll call them tackle football players, had was that they got turned away, not because of their lack of skill, but because they didn't look a certain way. And we're not talking about 500-pound girls that are ugly. Okay, we're not talking about that. We're talking about owners or coaches saying that, no, they don't want the real football players playing because they may hurt the girls, or that they don't look a certain way to play on their team, which was crazy. We were like, okay, this is supposed to be women's football, not a beauty pageant. You wouldn't see the guys, the guys don't go out there and get judged by, how big their biceps are and what their profile looks like. They have to go out there and run the 40, and they have to do cone drills. They're based off their position is based off their skill. And that became not the case with the LFL. Along with that, you've seen the uniforms. There's no way, what I say all the time is that you can sit up here and say, okay, we have an NBA team, but we're only going to allow people who are 5'10" and under, and we're going to have you guys play in flip-flops. That wouldn't make any sense. It takes away from the game. And their uniforms and what they're doing to not include everyone that's actually athletic enough to play changes the game. And once the game is changed, it's no longer about furthering women's football. It's just about entertainment and TNA.
Now, you brought up the fact that the women's basketball and the NBA backed them up. Now we got the WNBA, and now of course we've seen the same thing with the NHL with the NWHL or however the letters go for the women's NHL league that they have now. How close do you think that the women's football league is getting some kind of backing or enough backing that it can become more on a bigger stage and be more recognized as a professional sport versus just a bunch of ladies out there playing football?
I don't think we're close, but however close we are, we're not close enough. Nowhere near close enough. In 2012, when the San Diego Surge, when we won the championship, we played on Heinz Field. We played where the Steelers play. That was the closest we ever got. We were, on TV. It was ESPN2. It was broadcasted. It was great. We had one guy who was, who backed us, and he played in the NFL. And since then, there really hasn't been much. There hasn't been anything. And so the players themselves, we need to do something, not just the league, but the players themselves. We need to up our game. We need to get better. We have to be better than what people expect. We have to have a wow factor and not showing TNA. That's not a wow factor. We need to step our game up as far as our skill, as far as our marketing, as far as our organization, and we need to come together and we need to unite. There's too many teams spread out. There's only 2 leagues, but honestly that may be too much at this time as well. We need to come up with something in which we can have the NFL or an organization that's strong enough to back us, to market us, to, put us out there so that we're able to be like the WNBA,
Now, I'm gonna let the truth be told, and Miss Lee's probably gonna cuss me out here in a second. The reason why Miss Shorty was supposed to do the most of this interview is I'm a fan of the LFL. I don't, but I'm also not the typical guy. I don't watch it because of the fact that they're running around in basically a bathing suit. I can appreciate the fact that how hard they hit each other. I could do away with the little dancing stuff and some of the stuff that goes on in there, and don't get me wrong, but then again, you get the same thing with the guys in arena football. There's a little too much song and dance that goes with it, but I can appreciate the fact that they are not wearing a lot, and as hard as they hit each other, especially watching females do it. Yes, if I watch 2 guys out there playing 7-on-7, tackling each other, I wouldn't think much of it. But I have learned to appreciate more and more as women's sports has become the front center and more of attention, and we're getting the opportunity to see how talented and how athletic females have been all this time, just really didn't have the opportunity. And yes, it's not quite to the same level of what you guys are playing with the full contact and the full pad, and it is obviously not as physical because there's a lot of diva to it. But I do appreciate the fact that they go all out when they're tackling each other, wearing next to nothing. I can only imagine, with it being a female's body, you don't have the bone structure, the muscle structure, how much that's got to hurt when you're being tackled basically in a bathing suit. So I do get to kind of appreciate that as well. In that aspect, that's kind of why I was kind of restricted a little bit to how much I was supposed to talk, because, you know, I kind of walking a fine line on two different types of football.
Now, there are some very good athletes in the LFL. Like I said, I played with a few of them. However, when you don't have the best out there and they're out there to the world, they're being marketed to the world as, oh, this is what women's football is about, that's when there's a problem. That's not what women's football is about. Those aren't hard hits. And of course, because most of America sees what's on TV, which is with the LFL, you know, they're like, oh, these girls have nothing on. No, they hit hard. No, let me show you what hitting hard is. I can show you what hitting hard is. A lot of people that play the tackle football can show you what real hitting hard is. It's and I'm not downing the players of the LFL at all. Like I said, I know several of them, and they do have athletic ability. But when you sit up here and you're watching, you know, Pop Warner, you're like, oh my gosh, that's a great game for little kids. It's a great game for women wearing nothing. But you put real athletes, I'm not saying they're not real athletes, but you put a whole bunch of athletes, okay, and we're talking about lots, 1,600, okay, we're talking about a lot of athletes. Athletes in real gear on a real field playing real football, okay, and like I said, the reason why I don't call it real football is because they're in nothing. You're not going to catch the NFL guys going all out in Speedos and a bike helmet. You know, it changes the game. But on our field, you're going to go all out. You're going to all out. You're going to have the hits. You're going to have the throws, and you're going to have a lot more talent. The talent pool is greater there. You see what I'm saying? And, again, I'm not downing the LFL. I'm not downing the athletes there. But it's completely different. And what we need to do is we need to market ourselves in tackle football so that America sees, oh, this isn't what women's football is about. Because right now, most of the guys aren't like you. They don't see both sides. All they see is TNA. And they're looking for the wardrobe malfunctions and the stage fights. Like, that's what they want. That's entertainment. But we're trying to further the actual sport. We're trying to advance the actual sport of women's football and say, look, women can pass, they can throw. Our numbers are just as good as the guys. You know, like, we can play real football just like the guys play real football. And there's lots of women that are not lesbian. There's a big stereotype that all the women playing tackle football are lesbians. No. They're straight, very good-looking female players that play tackle football. And they choose not to play lingerie football because of what it says to not only America but our children, our little girls.
What do you think the Women's Football League needs to do differently to market different? I mean, honestly, until we had the opportunity to have Kenny Martin and his wife that played for the San Diego Surge, and we had Benji on the show, and it seems like we might have had one other female. I knew nothing about this Women's Football League and didn't realize how many teams. It's a pretty big league, and there's a lot of, you know, women out there playing. What do you feel that they need to do differently to help market it or make it more marketable so more people even are aware of this league and all the females out there playing this sport and playing it at the physical level they're playing?
Well, that's one thing. That's what we need to figure out for sure. I mean, the obvious answer is, well, we obviously need to get the word out more. So we need to be out in the community. We need to, I would say, you know, do what the Lingerie Football League does. Do what, you know, the women's basketball players did before they got picked up. Do whatever they did to put themselves out there so it looks appealing to America, so people know that it's there. I still run into people. I've been playing for 10 years, off and on for 8, but off and on for 10 years, 8 years total. And there's still people who come up to me and are like, oh, I didn't even know it existed. So first of all, we need to let people know they exist. How we do that on a wide scale, I mean, LFL has TV. That's amazing. We don't have that luxury, not right now. But we need to put something in place. And what that is, I don't know. If I knew, then we would probably be out there already. But I think that's what a lot of players and a lot of owners and, you know, Lisa King, I think that's what they're working on, so that we are on that scale at the LFL. Because, honestly, if you don't know we even exist, then really the LFL is your only outlet to women's football. And you can't fault the LFL for that. They have wonderful marketing. They're out there. People know about them. You can't fault them for that. If anything, you should learn from it and do what they're doing without the TNA.
How do you and your teammates handle the comparison between the two?
It can get quite intense sometimes. Some of the debates that are held, whether it's over social media or whether it's, in person, can get quite testy. For the most part, most of us know a couple of players that play for the LFL, so it's a fine line. It's kind of like we have our views, you have your views, you do what you need to do, we'll do what we need to do, and we'll just agree to disagree on whatever it is. However, there are some people that completely make their point known that what the LFL is doing is wrong, and there's some players in the LFL that say, what we're trying to do is we are trying to advance women's sports. It's just that we're doing it this way. This is what catches people's attention. So there's always going to be a disagreement. There's always going to be an argument. The fact of the matter is that it's big enough. The sport is big enough for both. And that's the fact of the matter. The thing is that we need to catch up. We being women's tackle football, we need to catch up. We need to do something different so that we have a different outcome. Otherwise, we're going to die.
Well, Deanna, I definitely wanted to thank you for your perspective of it all, and I hope that I walked the line that Ms. Lee was wanting me to walk. Like I said, we've had other, the coaches, Kenny Martin, one of the coaches, and some of the other ladies on from the team. I have a lot of respect for any female athlete out there. I think it takes a lot for the women to get out there and do a sport that has been, mainly known for guys to do and play at the level that you guys get to play at. And the WNBA has obviously established itself, and the NHL, the Women's League now. Obviously, we're getting a lot more people out there realizing that, females can play the sports just as well as guys, and some of them can play it better than, the guys. And it's really cool to just see this continue to grow and give us an opportunity to not only see, it being equal, but more the fact that we get to see athletes truly show off their gift that we never would have seen before. And, and I honestly believe the ladies in sports right now have kind of helped pioneer this movement, because not only are they doing it, but they're showing us how athletically gifted they are and proving they can be out there and making it easier for the younger generations, my kids and my kids' kids, as they get older, my daughter or granddaughter, have an opportunity that they might not have had if it wouldn't have been for athletes like yourself and the other ladies out there playing, the WNBA or hockey or Danica and NASCAR and the other ladies in the Women's Football League. That we possibly wouldn't have our kids out there be able to do this, but now it's more, and I hate to use this word, but now it's more accepted, and it shouldn't be that way. We always should have had this opportunity where the females should always have this opportunity to kind of display their athletic abilities and it be more of more of a common thing instead of now it being accepted. So I definitely want to thank you for coming on and joining us and kind of bringing that perspective of the Women's Football League up front and center to us.
You did a great job walking the line. Thank you for having me. I had a great time. And hopefully maybe one day, you never know, maybe we can, the LFL and the WFA and the IWFL, maybe we can all get together and do some marketing together, so everyone can see all sides of women's football.
Definitely sounds like a good idea, and obviously something needs to happen to further however it works out, so that you guys are on the spotlight and on the big stage, such as the WNBA and the NWHL. But the door is always open. Would love to have you back at some point once you decide whether or not you're going to continue playing football or any other athletic career that you decide to go in. It was definitely an honor and a privilege to talk to you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. You too. I love being on here. I would love to come back. We need more people like you.
Thank you. You have a great night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Tell you what, you can't ask for more than the opportunity to sit there and talk to a really gifted athletic person and a football player. Very excited about having the opportunity to have her on the show. Going from having the opportunity of having Patrick Taylor join us, then having a women's football player on the show, and then we get to wrap it up with the opportunity of having our very own NHL expert, Izzo, in the house. I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say about this week in the NHL that we just experienced and what's coming up in the next few days as well. So looking forward to that as well. We got him in the studio, so without any further delay, let's get him on the show because I know we got a lot of things to wrap up and talk about here in the NHL. Izzo, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing excellent, Jay. Doing excellent. We've got 9 games on tonight, so I'm kind of watching them while we're talking to you.
9 games. That sounds like a lot of pucking action.
Yeah, definitely a lot of games that were on tonight. Earlier scores from tonight: Ottawa edged Montreal 2-1 in overtime. The Capitals skated into New York to take on the Rangers and ended up losing that one 5-2 tonight. Pretty good battle in the other part of New York. The Islanders skated to a 2-1 victory over the New Jersey Devils tonight. That was a really good game to watch, very close, very cutting edge. Very good defensive sound game. Another game that is finished up earlier tonight was the Dallas Stars beat the Boston Bruins in Boston tonight 5-3. Chris Kelly for the Boston Bruins suffered a fractured leg tonight in the first period, and he's going to be out 6 to 8 months. Sort of a nasty collision, 2 guys trying to avoid themselves. I really don't see anything else coming of it. I don't see any league, I don't see the league coming down on this one at all. So hopefully Chris Kelly can get a speedy recovery, get back on the ice for Boston, because he'll sorely be missed. His 711 games in the NHL for between the Bruins and the Canadiens really helps out that team right now. Detroit skated to a 2-1 victory in Beantown tonight in Hockeytown over the Tampa Bay Lightning 2-1. That game ended just a little bit ago. End of the second right now. LA's up over St. Louis 1-0. That game is on NBC Sports. So if you guys want to tune into that one, that should be a very good and feisty third period. I look forward for the Blues to step up and try and tie this game, possibly take the lead. Also going on right now with about 6 minutes to play, Calgary is taking on Colorado in Colorado. Colorado has a 2-1 lead right now going into the end of the second on that one. Right now going on, coming close to the end of the second, Philly is in Edmonton tonight taking on the Oilers, and they hold a 2-1 lead right now over the Edmonton Oilers with just under 4 minutes left to go. Edmonton seems to be on a power play right now. And then later tonight, your Columbus Blue Jackets skate into San Jose and take on the Sharks. This should be a very good game. San Jose's been kind of struggling lately. We will get on the topic of San Jose another time for next week. So that is what's going on around the league tonight, Jay. Like I said, a lot of games going on, still one more to tick off. It's getting ready to start off here, and can't ask for a better night of hockey.
No, I know this wasn't part of our agenda, but I saw this earlier today and want to get your thoughts on this. But the lady and the whole Patrick Kane saga has decided she's not going to cooperate or no longer wants to cooperate with investigation. Do we have a potential payoff? I mean, why all of a sudden do you think that she's not wanting to cooperate?
Well, I mean that's what the trail is leading to. That's the smell coming from the kitchen right now. That's what it smells like. So, I mean, hey, he's collecting probably $8 million a year. He's doing pretty fine. His endorsement deals that he's had over the previous years and everything since he's been in the league, now for almost 10 years, if not 10 years. He's made an impact, especially on USA Hockey. Kid born in Buffalo, in the Buffalo area, played hockey there, and just look where he's at now. He's one of the faces of U.S. Hockey. So he's got an image to uphold right now, and it definitely looks like there could be a payoff coming, and it could be a healthy one because, hockey players don't get paid as much as, basketball or football players, but, with them endorsement deals and the tournaments and everything, they're more than well compensated. So these guys are sitting on a lot of money. So I'm kind of anxious to see if this is the case, how much is going to be shelled out. So somebody might have a new bathroom here pretty soon, if I'm not mistaken. So we shall see how this plays out.
I'm sure we'll never really know the details. I'm sure that is one of those things that will be kept hush-hush, and that way he can continue having an NHL career. I just thought it was funny that miraculously all of a sudden she doesn't want to cooperate.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, and when you hear that, you can only make opinions of it on your own time. You're not behind doors, you don't know what's going on, so everybody just assumes everything. So, is it mean and unjust for people to do that? Yeah, because you're not behind there. We don't know what happened. It's only hearsay, and even then, it's run through the media and everything like that, and it's streamed and filtered and. It's gone through so many people, everything is twisted around. So, he's doing fairly well right now. The Blackhawks aren't where they want to be, but we'll get into that discussion here in a little bit, as that is our topic for tonight. But he's playing good hockey. Watching him on the ice and everything, watching his play, he seems to be in a good zone, in a good place in his mind and everything. He had a pretty excellent game last night against L.A., which was a very good game for them, as I think they beat the Kings 4-2 last night, if I do remember correctly. Hopefully Toby's not listening because he might smack me because I did watch the game with him. But, Patrick Kane, just watching him play, watching his demeanor on the bench during the interviews, it's not like it's, he's really trying to show that it's not bothering him, and, he's doing a very good job at that. It doesn't seem to be affecting his, on-ice play or, his ice time or anything like that. He's a playmaking guy, and, whether or not things have happened or not, you still want that guy on the ice no matter what. He is definitely one of the top players in the world today. So he's the face of USA Hockey. So he's probably going to be shelling out a lot of money. I'm looking forward to seeing how much he is going to have to spend on this one. And hopefully, like I said, weeks prior, hopefully he can just learn from this experience and focus on hockey and focus on bettering the game of hockey for everybody and people around the world. So that's my hope and prayer.
Here we are in November, and we want to take an opportunity this episode to kind of reflect back on October. And tonight's focus was on some of the most disappointing players in October. What are some of the most disappointing players by teams in October, in your opinion?
Well, I kind of went through and read this and kind of made my own assumptions and everything like that. Some of these lists, this list had some names on there that I definitely didn't agree with. There are about a good 4 or 5 that I do agree with. One right off the bat is Corey Perry for the Anaheim Ducks. Corey Perry is, he's got 3 assists so far through this season, which I think is through 10 games. Which is unlike Corey Perry, especially for a guy who's he registers over a point a game. So, you want to see Corey Perry bury those goals, especially on the power play, especially on 5-on-5, just creating something, taking those wicked shots that he does. He's not on pace to score any goals right now. And he's definitely a 35, 40 goal scorer, and can, definitely hit the 75, 85 point range. Ryan Getzlaf right now is still out with the appendectomy surgery. He should be due back here in a couple days, and hopefully we get to see Corey Perry just, get on a grind, because 3 assists is not going to carry the Ducks into the playoffs, especially with their sweet new third jerseys that they just came out with. But another one that has really disappointed me, Tuukka Rask from the Bruins. Going into tonight, since they did not do well tonight, Tuukka Rask has just really dropped the ball for him so far. He's a top Vezina finalist, season in, season out. So far this year in October, 3-3-1, 3.29 goals against average, and only an 88.9 save percentage, which is just not like Tuukka Rask. Tuukka Rask can easily be in the 92, 93 save percentage area, and his goals against is just way too high right now. Definitely should be down to, maybe 1.5, 1.75. He's just not really seeing the puck right now. The loss of Dougie Hamilton may have something to do with that. The loss of Milan Lucic, who was also a good two-way power forward guy. That's a lot of defense to lose in 1 year. So I feel that Boston is still trying to fill those gaps with those guys right now, and I don't think they've found it yet. Look at Boston right now; they're not really doing too hot. So you would like to see Tuukka, bounce back a little bit and pitch a shutout here or two, here and there or whatever, to get them guys maybe get some confidence into the other guys. He's led them to the Cup final before, and he could definitely do it again. They have the proper team, but injuries have always been a key to this team right now, especially losing Chris Kelly for 6 to 8 weeks. Months, I do believe. It's kind of tight in Boston right now, Jay, and people in Boston are just not looking very confident as they normally do. It's weird in Boston right now. It's just the offense isn't there. The leadership doesn't seem to be there. Brad Marchand is still playing the way he does, year in and year out. He's a good veteran leader. It's just everybody else. I just don't know what the deal is in Boston. So moving on, another one. Especially if he's listening right now, which I hope he is. Another disappointment so far for the Chicago Blackhawks has been Marcus Kruger, through 11 games, 0 points, no points whatsoever. This guy waited all the way into September to sign a $1.5 million contract for the Blackhawks and hasn't done anything so far through the first 11 games of the season. Which is hence why, the Hawks are only 7-5 right now, sitting with 14 points. They need a lot out of Marcus Kruger. He's definitely one of their bigger, stronger grinder, two-way player guys, and can score. Can easily put up 20, 25 points in a season. Would like to see a little bit more out of him, especially if in this Central Division, which is getting kind of crazy right now after the first month, if I do say so myself. He's getting the same amount of ice time, anywhere from 13 to about 15 minutes of ice time. He's definitely seeing the puck pretty well. He's putting shots on net. It's just a matter of time. Once he cracks that, that goose egg and everything like that, I feel he'll kind of come into his own. He's not really playing with the same line anymore. Brian Bickle, as we all know, got sent down to AHL Rockford, and the Hawks had recalled Dano back up to the lineup, who actually did pretty well in the preseason. They were kind of in a pickle in that point in time because they didn't know if they wanted to keep Panarin or if they wanted to keep Dano, so they kept Panarin and shipped Dano down, and now Dano's back up, and hopefully he can, spark a good goal-scoring essence on that third line along Marcus Kruger. Another one on this list, this very long list that it took me a very long time to to really, find out what some of these people were thinking. But another one, Pittsburgh Penguins, Chris Kunitz, I'm sorry. He's one of the fan favorites down there, or up there in Pittsburgh, I'm sorry. Has been there for a while, won a cup there. And is a good fan favorite, pretty good guy in the locker room. Everybody seems to like him. Was kind of hampered by injuries so far this year. Was playing on the second rotating off the first and second line last year at the start of the year. Got off to a hot start and then just died off, went into a shadow. No one heard of him, seen him, or anything like that. It was, where did Chris Kunitz go all last year? Not really doing too well this year, only a couple of points, not really skating up to his old style. I think he's at 34, 35 years old, starting to lose some of that good speed that he had back in the day, especially when he played for the Anaheim Ducks. Lost a lot of speed. Getting up in these upper years for him is a big thing. He was known as one of the faster guys in the league, and he just doesn't seem to have that quick burst of speed anymore. So he's been moved down to the third line on the Penguins roster as of late, and he'll probably keep playing around that third line, possibly fourth line, and maybe even be a healthy scratch here and there. This could be the end of Chris Kunitz here in Pittsburgh pretty soon. He could be trade bait. They could just give him his release. I really see them trying to just ship him somewhere where he would want to go, and possibly end his career somewhere where he of his choosing. I can foresee that one happening. Not too sure if he's got he might have the credentials to get in the Hall of Fame. He could make it, he could not make it. That would be a pretty good debate to hear. With his career and everything like that, in Anaheim and Pittsburgh, even his collegiate career was pretty outstanding too. But hopefully Chris Kunitz can, maybe, see some good ice time here soon. Get back to, his old playing days and everything like that. Not necessarily with the speed, but with the shooting aspect and the forechecking aspect too. Very good, solid forechecker, and that's definitely a guy you want in your locker room when it comes to, after the trade deadline and everything going into the postseason. So, it's not really looking good for right now for Chris Kunitz and the Pens back home, and I know most of my friends that are probably listening right now are hopefully agreeing with me and seeing the same things I've been seeing. If not, it's going to be a long night on Facebook for me. So, but hopefully Chris can turn it around and still be a positive force for the Pens. It would be nice to see him just, retire as a Penguin. It would be pretty cool to see that. But moving on, the last one on this list that really just kind of struck me, and I'm like, yeah, now that you say something, yeah, that is true. The New York Rangers, Rick Nash. Rick Nash last year scored 42 goals and set a career high. And he's still in his early 30s, 33, I do believe he is. So far in 11 games, 1 goal scored. I don't think he has any assist on this year. And the offense that New York runs is pretty much primarily, that first line is based around Rick Nash getting in front of the net and trying to do something. And he hasn't been able to do anything right now. Teams have seemed to, neutralize him so far this early part of the year, and that's kind of unnatural because Rick Nash is a very gifted goal scorer, can easily hit the 50-goal plateau. I thought he might have had a chance to do it so far for this year, but it's not really looking too good for him so far. But he's in an offense that favors him and his type of play. He's a very good skater, very good stick handler, and just one of the purest goal scorers in the league right now. And has been, even when he was in Columbus with your Blue Jackets. He still put up astounding numbers. And even though he was the team himself half the time, because those were the dark days of Columbus in those early days. But Rick Nash, was an all-star year in, year out, was always in the race for, the Rocket Richard for goals scored in the season. He carried that team for a long time. And now that he's in New York and has a surrounding cast, hey, it's a good thing that he has a surrounding cast, but if Rick Nash gets hot, he gets white hot, and it's dangerous. He can control the outcome of games on the tip of his stick, and it's very scary to watch. When he has the puck, you kind of clench up a little bit. You know what I mean? You kind of like, no, don't do it, not this time. Please don't do it. Just miss the net. He's one of those guys. And it's kind of scary to see him with the puck. His release on that shot, man, you can't blink an eye or else that puck will be behind you. So Rick Nash is getting his chances. He's averaging about 7-8 shots a game. So I mean, he is trying to put it behind the net, but man, he's just got to stop hitting the goaltender when he's doing it. So hopefully Rick Nash can get back on track and hopefully better position the Rangers for the next part of the next month of the season. So if they want to make the playoffs, the East is already pretty stacked right now as of this first month and everything like that. So it's going to be a long haul for Rick Nash, but like I said, if he gets hot, he'll get white hot and he'll get really dangerous and he'll start scoring a lot of goals and have a pretty good point streak going on, in games for scoring goals and scoring points and crap like that. So he's a very dangerous guy. I respect him. I would not want to see him as a goaltender. So hopefully Rick Nash will get back on the track and help bolster the Rangers' standing position in the Metropolitan Division, because that's going to be another hellacious year in that division this year, Jay. So they need Rick Nash, and they need Rick Nash right now.
Now, speaking of the Columbus Blue Jackets, do you have a name off the top of your head when it comes to the Columbus Blue Jackets?
A name off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
Todd Marchant, Sergei Fedorov. I'm pretty sure Ron...
You ain't got to name the whole team as a disappointment now.
Well, no, I mean, I'd say they're better now than what they were if Rick Nash were in Columbus right now, along with Ryan Johansson and Brendan Saad and all those guys right now, that would be a very dangerous team to watch, especially with the likes of Brendan Saad and having Rick Nash on the wings. So. That could be a very, very, very scary line. A guy who can score 20 goals playing with a guy who can score 40 to 45 to 50 goals, all your center has to do is just make plays and make the right passes and everything. So, that would be an interesting team to see, Jay. Rick Nash with the Columbus Blue Jackets right now. That would be, that would be a scary sight. For me, I'm not going to lie to you there. Oh, man, I'm kind of getting excited just thinking about that. It's kind of like one of those things where you want to go back and try and adjust the EA NHL game a little bit, see what things would look like. So, but Columbus is I've been paying attention to them, since Tortorella has come on. He's really shaken them up. He really has. I haven't seen him play this hard, so far in the year. And, I mean, thank God it's only November because these seasons are long and aggravating and everything like that. And I think Tortorella is going to be there for a while. And, they're doing well. Bobrovsky had a pretty solid game a couple nights ago I remember watching. He's kind of getting back onto the pace that he was at last year and everything like that. Defense is still kind of suspect for them. The power play is doing fairly well. It's scoring goals, which is a good thing to see. You just don't want to ever go into those big old droughts and everything like that. So Columbus they got a trial ahead of them. So hopefully they got the fortitude to walk that path and get to Graceland.
Now, do we have any other names on this list that you want to make mention of? It was really grueling to kind of watch or read this list. I mean, just the simple fact that Jacob... Or any names that you have on your own list that you felt that should have been in place?
Yeah, actually, there is one. There was Montreal Canadiens so far. Alexander Semin. I was really looking forward to see something out of him in this first month since they got him pretty cheap and they had him up on the second line, third line area. 1 goal with 3 points in October. That's just, with the way the Canadians have been scoring goals and dominating, you have not heard Alexander Semin's name really in the box score list area at all. It's kind of disappointing. I don't know what kind of a funk he's in because he is another, he could be a 30, 35 goal scorer in the league. with the way, because we've all been watching how Montreal's just been dominating so far this early part of the year, and you've not heard Simmons' name mentioned at all in the goal scoring or in the points category at all. So that's very disappointing to see. Man, I would like to see more out of him. I feel if he can hit the 20 goal, maybe the 25 goal mark and manage to get like 40 points, 45 points, somewhere in that area, he can be brought back again. But so far in this first month, it's just, I think they're kind of glad that they got him really cheap on a 1-year contract. So that was one name that I added to the list. Another one, the Flyers had Steve Mason as one of the guys. I chose Jacob Voracek. Only 3 assists in October. Voracek signed a big deal this past year, and is another gifted goal scorer that plays along Claude Giroux on that first line in Philly. Very big guy, long reach. His release on his wrist shots and his snap shots are ridiculous, and his on-ice IQ is just too high for him only to have 3 assists, especially in Philly on that first line. Wayne Simmons being the guy in front of the net and everything, and Voracek and Giroux, stick handling, moving around and everything, them working the points. You'd like to see a little bit more. I'd like to see a little bit more shots coming out of Jacob Voracek. I really would. I don't think he's shooting the puck enough. I also don't think that they're getting, enough penalties called their way because he does a lot of damage on the power play. And I'd like to see a little bit more power play opportunities coming out of, for Philly's way and everything like that if they want to, keep pace in the division that they're in right now. Another one that I found really interesting was the Tampa part of this article and everything with the Palat, Kucherov, and Johnson line. That line last year in 38 games, man, this registered 36 points, I think it was just on a tear. These guys were just ridiculous. No one could stop them. And so far this year, they've done dinky-do and have not made any kind of really big contribution this year. Teams have seemed to have shut them down, played a lot more physical on these young guys, and really taken away their lanes and everything like that. So that's another that's another 3 players that I'd like to see do a little bit better, especially when they took the league by storm last year. And I mean, for 2 months, they were just racking it up. 3 months just racking it up, and they were the talk of the NHL. And now you haven't even heard a whisper about them so far this year. So that's another that's a line I'd like to see play a lot better. But other than that, that's really the ones that really have snapped out at me so far. It's only November, so it's still pretty early. So, and we know it's still pretty early because Jamie Benn kind of went on a scoring tear there. I think 7 points in 4 or 5 games or something like that in the end of October. So he's been going on a scare, and that's another crazy thing. The Central Division I wanted to touch on. You got 4 of the 5 points leaders in the Central Division. Just this first month of the season, which is crazy. That's kind of unheard of. 4 of the top 5 points getters in the league are in the Central Division, which is a lot of offenses coming out of the Central Division right now. So it's kind of scary to watch the Central kind of spread out and play all these other divisions and other Eastern teams and everything like that, and they just walk away with wins. And man, it's kind of a toss up right now. Each team, I mean, from the Stars in order all the way down to the Hawks, there's only 4 points that separate first place in the division to the 6th place in the division. So it's a tight race right now, and it's only the first month. I can't imagine if it would stay like this all year long, where 6 teams are vying for the number 1 spot in the division, which is ridiculously. You don't ever hear 6 teams battling for a division. It's just unheard of.
Yeah.
Just unheard of.
That's I tell you what, this season is definitely definitely suiting us well, and definitely looking forward, especially having you on Tuesday nights to really be involved and definitely embrace the excitement of the 2015-16 season.
Yeah, and check it out tomorrow. Tomorrow we got Wednesday night rivalry. We're going to have a war on our hands in this one. Anybody who's a puckhead knows this one. The St. Louis Blues are going into Chicago to take on the Blackhawks at 8 o'clock on NBC Sports. So that's going to be a pretty physical battle. There's no way to sugarcoat it. Both teams absolutely hate each other. They have throughout their, since the early 90s. They've absolutely hated each other. From the days of Jeremy Roenick, all the way down to, Dirk Graham and all those guys back for the Blackhawks and everything. So this is going to be a pretty interesting game to watch. But only 4 games on tomorrow. First one at 7 o'clock. Winnipeg skates into Toronto. 8 o'clock, Blues will skate into the Blackhawks. 10:30, Florida takes on Anaheim. And at 10 o'clock, Pittsburgh will skate into Vancouver and take on the Canucks. So those are our 4 games tomorrow. Follow me at 110 Puckhead. Let's talk about Wednesday night rivalry tomorrow, because we all know anybody who's a Puckhead, Blues do not like the Hawks, and the Hawks do not like the Blues. It'll be an excellent one, and hey, Twitter me up, man. Let's talk about it. Let's find out who is going to fight who tomorrow in this game, because I imagine there could be a couple scuffles and possibly a good fight there. So grab your favorite beverage, turn on NBC Sports tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, and check it out.
I will definitely make sure I'm there. I definitely will make sure that I am following you guys on Twitter tomorrow. This should be fun and entertaining. Not only the rivalry matchup tomorrow night, but also the timeline and the tweets. So looking forward to that. As always, Izzo, I'm privileged and honored to have you join us. Always bringing it all and putting it all on the table for us for NHL. Very excited to have you on. Looking forward to spitting some messages back and forth throughout the week, and looking forward to having you back on Tuesday to do this all over again.
Hey, sounds good, Jay. Well, I'm going to tune into your Blue Jackets right now and watch that game. So should be an interesting one. Have a good night, buddy.
All right, you too. That was Izzo, our NHL expert. I tell you what, Tuesday night shaped up to be, once again, a very fun night, and glad to have the opportunity to sit here, have Patrick on the show, Deanna on the show, and then, of course, Izzo. Don't forget, tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock sharp, we got the 110 Nation morning show. Also, tomorrow night, we got Dylan Martin's brother joining us at 9:30. Looking forward to having him on the show. Of course, Shorty and I will be doing our NFL picks. Looking forward to another week, as I went 10-4 this week. And, yes, I got beat this week. She went 11-3. She got me 2 weeks. I'm still up like 13 games, so I'm really not sweating it that bad. But I'm looking forward to being back on tomorrow night for 3 hours worth of talk throughout the day. Don't forget, you can follow me at CJ Sports 1. You can follow the 110 Nation at 110 Nation. Check out our website, www.the110nation.com. Check out our blog site, www.the110nationsports.com. Check me out on Facebook, Mr. CJ Sports. Check out the 110 Nation on Facebook, 110 Nation. Until tomorrow morning, you guys have a great night.